Now that we've got the target IP, the other thing we wanted to maybe do is take a look at other IP addresses that could be associated to this domain name. So I'm going to clear the screen here by doing a CLS. And we're probably all familiar with the tool that's called NSLookup. NSLookup has the ability to go through and compare a domain name to an IP address. Now, it actually has two different modes. There's interactive mode and non-interactive mode. If I was just simply to come in here and do an NSLookup for yahoo.com, this is called non-interactive mode, which means it gave me the result back, and it told me that in this case here, the Yahoo is equal to a couple different IP addresses. It's a non-authoritative answer, which means the DNS server I used, in this case here I'm using Google's DNS server, is not authoritative for Yahoo, which that makes sense, right? They're not in charge of Yahoo. But you notice it came back to my standard cursor. Interactive mode is where we just simply type in NSLookup and hit enter without specifying a domain name. Now you'll notice here that it's telling me what my server is I'm going to be using to issue my queries against. And from here I can type in yahoo.com, I can type in sears.com, just show me the IP addresses that you would normally resolve to when you were browsing with your computer or phone. So what I want to actually do here is I want to change this up a bit. I'm going to go through and see if I can find out. The default for NSLookup is to return what they refer to as A records. And an A record is just simply pointing a computer name to an IP address. And it's just typically, I mean, if I was to type in www.hackthisSite.org, you can see here that it gives me several different IPs, and look at that. See, they're the different IPs. So they've got some type of, and they're also supporting IPv6. Isn't that interesting? But that's not the most interesting part. I can actually tell NSLookup to give me back or resolve back different name records. For example, if I want to find out what the mail server IP address is, I can tell NSLookup to set the type to be equal to MX, which means look at MX records now based off what I type in. So if I type in hackthisSite.org, it tells me that the machines or the computers that are in charge of answering email, so if I was going to send an email to fred@hackthisSite.com, it's going to go up and look up and find, well, I can tell right now that they're being maintained by Google through Google Mail. And what I would be able to do at this point as an attacker is say, okay, well, there's the server. Let's find out what the IP address is for. Let's do a set type and take it back to an A record. And now I can do, let's do alt1.aspmx.l.google.com. And you can see there's the IP address for that particular box. Again, I know this happens to be a mail server, and if I wanted to figure out what email service they were using, I could use something. Again, we'll talk about this in a later module where we'll do what they refer to as a banner grab, which based off the command I send to the server, it'll kick back and tell me what version of server it's running and possibly what the email service is. Now, if I also want to figure out what the name of the server is that's maintaining, or another name for the server that's maintaining hackthisSite.com is, I can do a set type equals CNAME. A CNAME is an alias. And so now I should be able to just simply type in my hackthisSite.org. And it tells me here that the primary name server is NS1. It also tells me the responsible email address is admin.hackthisSite.org. And it also gives me its serial number, its refresh, how often it's refreshing, and its default TTL. Now, if you want to use a different, sometimes we're not able to resolve an IP address because in the example of Google, there's very seldom would I be able to resolve an external IP, but obviously Google doesn't know anything about an internal IP address. And so what I can do is I can do a simple set, take that back, it's just server, and then put in the IP address of the DNS server that you want to use. In my case, I believe it's 254. We'll find out here. And now if I just do a hackthisSite.org, notice I'm using my server trying to resolve it. And in this case, I was able to finally get there. but that was also still based off my CNAME record. So let's change the type back. We'll go set type equals A. And now I'll just up arrow twice to get back to my previous one. And again, which server I'm going to use. Should be using my 10.10.254 address. And again, it's non-authoritative because again, my DNS server is not in charge of hack this site. So this information can be extremely beneficial, especially like I said, if I'm trying to find different targets that are exposed on the internet itself. And a lot of people look at this and they go, well, how do I stop this? Or what's my countermeasure here? Well, there really isn't a countermeasure, because in order to send email, when two email servers want to talk to each other, for example, if I try to send an email from hackthisSite.org and I want to send it over to Google.com, the Google servers have to be able to, or I should say my Hack This Site server needs to be able to resolve who is Google and who is the MX record for Google, so I know where to send my email messages. So again, I'm going to go through and I'm going to document as much of this information as I can, just so that I have it as a reference if I'm trying to, or I should say when I make my attempt at this target.